Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. More from the World Boxing Council's annual convention and what mandates, what orders have come down. Resident loudmouth Claressa Shields was ordered to fight her mandatory challenger in America's own Danielle Perkins in February. This is a very interesting fight because this is one of the few times that Claressa won't seem the bigger woman in the ring. Danielle is a big girl, very big. Claressa Shields' would-be rival in mixed martial arts and boxing, Chris Cyborg, reacted to the announcement by saying Claressa Shields is out here fighting 42-year-old women with 5 professional bouts, hiding in a division with only 17 active fighters in the world.
Yeah.
You can hardly fault Claressa Shields for who the World Boxing Council decides to order her to fight. It's not her fault that Danielle Perkins is the mandatory, but it does speak to something else. It does speak to what Chris Cyborg is suggesting, that the divisions where Claressa Shields campaigns are mostly barren. The talent pool is tepid and shallow. So how could ruling over divisions like this one make you the greatest woman of all times when there's virtually no competition, no real competition around? It was originally thought that Claressa Shields would be going into a light heavyweight unification match with Che Keneally, WBA light heavyweight champion. We talked about that potential matchup the other day. This order changes things. She may end up fighting Danielle Perkins unless she petitions for an exemption to the mandatory to go unify with Che Keneally.
We'll see.
What she decides to do, I think Danielle Perkins is a relatively less expensive option than Che Keneally, a reigning champion in the light heavyweight division. I'm going to assume for a unification match, Che would want to make decent money. It may cost Claressa less. Claressa and Dimitri Salita to just fight Danielle, so we'll see how that shakes out. But that's not the only thing that's grabbing headlines. That's not the only way Claressa is making news. She seems to be involved in a love triangle.
What?
A love triangle with 2 hip-hop artists in Remy Martin and Paprika.
It's Papoose.
Remy Martin took to her Instagram account and posted what appears to be a screenshot. Text correspondence between Claressa and Papoose. For those not familiar with these 2 hip-hop artists, they were together for a while, for a long time, though I don't think they're together now.
Didn't Remy Martin cheat on him?
Yeah, that's the story, and they're rumored to be not together anymore, which is what makes this peculiar. So in the blue, you have Papoose, and in the gray, you have Claressa. Papoose told her, but that's okay, we're human beings, no human is going to be able to report their every move. You see nothing wrong with that? To which Claressa responded,
"You take accountability. You're the one who's married. If you can't at least sleep on the phone with me or be with me in person, it shouldn't be a big deal to let me know you made it home safe or to communicate you fell asleep in the Sprinter."
To which Platypus responded, "After the office, I'm going to a Christmas party at the office. The CEO asked me to come last week. You don't know that, do you?"
Pap, I don't care. You don't have to tell me nothing.
Now, under the screenshot, Remy Martin herself posted a caption that reads, "Papoose's dumbass fell asleep on the phone with Claressa Shields, laying in my house. He refuses to leave. This bitch is supposed to be a world champion boxer, and scary ass hung up as soon as she heard my voice. Now, I'm telling everything. Oh, and baby girl, you're not the only one.
Well, what's Clarissa being a world champion have to do with anything? World champions like to have orgasms too.
Clarissa responded to all of this by saying, "This can't be serious. You have 2 boyfriends." To which Remy Martin responded, "That's what he told you. LOL.
Well, in fairness, Remy Martin's extramarital affairs have been widely publicized. It's well known by now that she cheated on that guy and that they're not together, or they're not supposed to be.
Clarissa Shields herself, via her Instagram story, stated how a woman with 2 boyfriends is mad at a man that has a girlfriend. Remy Martin, if I ain't the only one, why the hell are you tagging me?
It's clear that Papoose has a type.
A type is right, because the common denominator between a Remy Martin and a Clarissa Shields is that they're both aggressive, they're both assertive, outspoken,
Annoying, overbearing.
See, you're bound to get into a power struggle with those kinds of broads because they're trying to wear the pants, and because he seems to have an affinity for these kinds of broads, he must be the submissive type.
They both seem like a headache.
He's experiencing one. He took to his own social media and stated, "Sad to say that Remy Martin is a narcissist. She chose to cheat repeatedly. Now that I finally moved on, she's playing a victim. I've requested a divorce numerous times. She rather clout chase on social media than handle this like civilized adults. I did not want to do the social media foolishness. For the sake of my 6-year-old baby, she has to go to school. As you can see, I remained quiet through this all."
Papoose is 46, close to 50 years old. He's 46 and Remy Martin is 44.
While Clarissa Shields is 29. And she's likely going to get more attention for this love triangle than a fight with either Danielle Perkins or Che Keneally. Nobody knows those women. This will be what dominates the headlines for Clarissa Shields, this love triangle, that a lot of the time when she's getting attention, it's for the wrong reasons. It's because you're either arguing with a Cameron Giles or you're all caught up in a love triangle between Papoose and Remy Martin.
It's just as messy and just as trashy as Clarissa likes it.
If there is anything to be derived from all of this, is that being caught up in this love triangle and having it play out publicly does enhance her profile, for better or worse, with an audience that exists outside of the world of boxing. And I don't know how much that's going to help her in selling tickets and getting eyes on her fights, but at minimum, more people will know of her.
Papoose, what about him?
Stop dating these manly broads. That's the cause of all your headaches. You keep dating these broads that are trying to wear the pants, trying to tell you what to do, control you.
What are you looking for, a mother figure?
I can care less about the state of Paprika's marriage or an extramarital affair or whatever it is he's got going on, but it's clear what the cause of your headaches is.
Keep dating these self-important mouthy broads.
It's just neither here nor there. This is more for the love and hip-hop crowd. They eat this stuff up, and it's clear to me that Clarissa wants to be a part of that scene.
Oh yeah, it's messy, but I think she likes that. I think she feels right at home rolling around in that.
The profile boost, as stated, she's gonna get more attention for this than either a Danielle Perkins fight or a Che Keneally fight. In men's lightweight news, per Boxing Insider Rick Glacier, hearing from several sources, Leonard Ellerbe has been jettisoned by Tank Davis and no longer has any affiliation with Tank. This is definitely a step in the right direction for Tank. Ellerbe has a way of landing on his feet. He'll probably end up at PBC right next to Stefan Espinoza. I think it was a little over a year ago when Gervonta Davis announced that he would be separating from Mayweather Promotions. That was a little over a year ago, and it was earlier this year when Leonard Ellerbe did the same thing. He stepped down as CEO of Mayweather Promotions.
Likely so that he can keep working with Gervonta Davis, just so that a few months later he can lose that gig too?
How the mighty have fallen. Leonard Ellerbe came into the public eye by being in Floyd Mayweather's corner back when Floyd Mayweather was the best thing smoking, but those days have long since passed. And if this rumor turns out to be true, and Gervonta really did give Leonard the boot, it lends credence to the notion that next year will be his final year in the sport of boxing.
And go, oh yeah, let's give it all, Barry big bollocks, and go, oh yeah, let's give him some stick, and then make out like we want the fight. And then we send an offer over, and then you fight for 15 million, and yet you fight Lamont Roach. Don't do all that. Do you know what I mean?
It was a real offer. That was true then.
It was a real offer. We offered. I said, listen, you keep talking shit. My promoter's going to get back to you in 48 hours. 50 minutes. Initial offer sent over. You know, but was it Unquell didn't let him out to play? His boss didn't let him out. That's it. So he wants to talk about 50 million. First offer. First offer.
There was room to negotiate.
Of course there was. But he's an idiot. I don't even know if he knows what negotiating means.
So Conor Benn claims to have made a play for a Gervonta Davis fight. 15 million. I'd wager that's a lot more than Gervonta is set to take home for Lamont Roach. And I know that Gervonta usually does very good gates, but you guys are acting like he's going to take all of that home, as if a sizable portion of that might not go to the operational costs to even do the show and pay the undercard fighters.
He's not Canelo Alvarez, you know.
For the longest time, he's let other people do the thinking for him. Leonard Ellerbe, Floyd Mayweather. And if it is true that he's casted Leonard Ellerbe away, he's not on his team anymore, who's going to negotiate for him moving forward? And who says he needs someone to do that? He does mean to retire.
That's what he said.
Outwardly, it just seems like he wants to because the situation has changed. You're running out of safe options. You're not on Showtime anymore, so you don't have them guaranteeing you the big bucks. You're on Amazon now.
And even if Amazon were doing everything that Showtime used to, you're still running out of options, safe options. It's not that there aren't
big fights out there, lucrative ones. There's still money to be made, but it does involve taking risks. One among them seems to have been Conor Benn. Bigger money than a Lamont Roach fight, but also bigger risks for a bigger guy.
I think Gervonta Davis is maybe a B-level fighter. B-level, disguised behind the matchmaking.
B-level isn't bad. B-level. But it's not Alexander Usyk. It's not Terrence Crawford, Canelo. It's not Inouye. B-level is good enough to keep you fighting, keep you winning, if the matchmaking is right.
B-level.
There's a lot of speculation as to just how good Gervonta Davis is, given the fighters that he hasn't fought. You don't really know. How good is he really?
B-level.
I think he is a solid B-level fighter. And the earmark of this era is you have B and C-level fighters that are being marketed as if they are A-level fighters. You used to have to earn it.
You know it's bad when an undercard fighter in a Stanionis turns his nose up at an offer to unify with Ennis when Brian Norman does the same thing. These are undercard fighters, and at the very best, they're B-level fighters because they haven't proven that they're A-level fighters.
Not yet. So when I look over at Gervonta and how deliberate the matchmaking is, how they're basically getting all these guys that are cut from the same cookie cutter, he might at the very best be a B-level fighter that's running out of safe options.
An A-level fighter is an A-level fighter because he's adaptable, malleable. They've got more tools, more everything.
Even an A-level fighter can struggle with one style more than another, but the earmark of an A-level fighter is they are adaptable, whereas a B-level fighter, they can be good, they can be alright, but they have their limitations, and Gervonta has his.
He knows that, and that's why he's ready to call it a career. He's ready to walk away.
Men's welterweight news, another look at the ongoing situation between Ennis and what is supposed to be his next fight. Eddie Hearn says he is in negotiations with both Stanionis and Mario Barrios for unification matches with Ennis. Hearn claims Brian Norman Jr. wants a warm-up fight first.
And he confirmed there was an offer on the table for Ennis to face Teofimo Lopez.
Because he seems to be prioritizing unification matches over a Teofimo Lopez fight, even though a fight with Teofimo would have more of a profile. It's hard for me to consider it a duck if he prioritizes unification matches over a fight with Teofimo, because I don't view Teofimo as a threat to him.
But are those unification matches actually available? Eddie mentioned Mario Barrios as a potential fight, but Mario is also in talks to fight Conor Benn.
And if he does, that rules him out of a Ennis fight. He mentioned Stanionis, but Stanionis is rumored to be boxing as mandatory Shakram Gayasov on the undercard of Davis versus Roach in March, and if he does, that rules him out.
You just said that Brian Norman wants a warm-up fight, so he ruled himself out.
In a situation where there may not be any unification matches available, why not fight Teofimo? He says he wants to fight you, and Bob wants to make it. Maybe what they're afraid of is Teofimo wasting their time. That if you put the negotiations for a unification match on the back burner for this, you might end up losing a lot of time on this, and the fight may not even materialize. Maybe that's the mentality.
You don't want to spend weeks and months on this just for it to all fall apart in the 13th hour and you're left without a dance partner, but it would seem that you're kind of there already. You want to unify, and none of the other 3 champions are available. So what are you gonna do?
Damned if you do, and damned if you don't. Because if you do fight Teofimo, what the criticism will be is you chose to forego a Virgil Ortiz fight at 154 to stay at 147 to fight a guy that's never actually fought at 147. You will find that the boxing community at large, a portion of them, are less than sympathetic for Boots at this time because we see what the circumstances are. It's not like the other champions are in any hurry to fight him. They're not. Those are the fights that he wants.
But they place no emphasis on those fights, unifying titles or going undisputed, because they think this competition is weak.
And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on what they think, because most, if not all of what they think, is agenda-driven. I don't consider it a duck if he forgoes a Lopez fight to go unify, if he can, because I don't view Lopez as a threat to him.
Do you?
Maybe he's a more well-known fighter than Brian Norman, than Stanionis, and Mario Barrios, and maybe he's more accomplished than they are, but he's also smaller, noticeably smaller than they are.
And it's not like he's been looking dynamic because he hasn't.
See, the thing, if he were plowing through guys at 140 pounds, I might have a different attitude towards all of this, but he's been looking bang average for 4 out of his last 5 fights.
I'm supposed to believe that Boots is ducking him because he doesn't make him more of a priority.
It is a little hard for me to wrap my mind around, but I think the best solution would be for Teofimo to fight Brian Norman. Remember that Teofimo was Unified Ring Magazine and Lineal Champion at 130, and he's currently WBO Champion at 140. He's got WBO Super Champion status.
What is that?
A designation that allows a champion to move up in weight and immediately become the mandatory challenger for that division's WBO champion. It's how Terrence Crawford became Jeff Horn's mandatory, how Usyk became Anthony Joshua's mandatory. Teofimo is the beneficiary of that same designation. So you can use that to get an immediate shot at Brian Norman. You're both with Top Rank, you fight on the same platform, you claim you want Boots, but if you can't get him, get Brian!
Quit the grab-assing.
You have to start somewhere, and if you can't start with Boots, Brian would be the next best thing. Teofimo doesn't seem at all interested in unifying the 140-pound division. He wants to move up to 147. If what you want is a title shot, Brian is right there.
And Boots?
I don't really know that Boots Ennis' situation can be helped, because like I said, there are a lot of people that have already made up their minds about him, and they're not going to like him. They're going to look for any way they can to criticize him, and he himself seems to have a penchant for making himself look bad.
It seems like the only scenario that wouldn't have resulted in widespread criticism would have been moving up in weight and fighting Virgil. That's the one move he could have made that nobody could criticize.
Then why didn't he just do it?
Do it!
Because he says he wants to unify the welterweight division, because he didn't actually beat a champion in order to be a champion, and he wants to do that first. That's what he said, but that's not a good enough explanation for a lot of people. They would have preferred that he fought Virgil.
So you know, the Boo Birds aren't gonna leave him alone anytime soon.